Hey everyone, my name is Amar Ali and I welcome you to my channel. For the past couple of years, I have been learning how to draw portraits, and one of the things that I have struggled with the most has been figuring out the face proportions. So, in this video, I'm about to share 5 face proportions that have simplified the whole portrait drawing process for me. And I hope this video helps at least some of you who, like me, find it a bit tricky to draw the face consistently well. So, starting with the easiest but arguably the most critical face proportion, which is the eye level. So basically, if you measure the overall height of the head, starting from the highest point at the top of the skull, all the way down to the base of the chin, the eye level is on average at the halfway point. As a beginner, I usually got this proportion wrong by drawing eyes way higher than they're supposed to be because I often underestimated how tall the head goes beyond the hairline. And so, a good rule of thumb I like to remember when I'm drawing a face at a relatively straightforward angle is to simply divide the head into two halves and place the eye level roughly at the center. Sometimes the eyes may appear higher or lower than the head's vertical center because of perspective. For example, when you're drawing a face that is slightly tilted downwards, the eye level will appear lower than the head's vertical center because of foreshortening. So before applying any proportions to your portrait drawing, it always helps to consider the effect of perspective and adapt these guidelines accordingly. Okay, so the second proportion that I actually learned from the Loomis method is the rule of the thirds, which is basically that the face can be divided into three equal parts representing the forehead, the nose, and the base of the face that consists of the mouth and the chin. Now, I know there can be exceptions to this rule, but from my experience, 9 times out of 10, this proportion will check out. And I have to say, this has been a game changer for me in terms of improving the speed and accuracy of my portrait drawings. One thing I like to remember is the actual landmarks on the face that are used to define these three segments. So the forehead is the distance between the hairline and the brow ridge. The nose starts from the brow ridge all the way down till the base of the nose. And the final segment, which is quite self explanatory, starts at the base of the nose and ends at the base of the chin. Something I find tricky is to figure out how to adapt the rule of the thirds when drawing a face with a bit of foreshortening. For example, when the face I'm drawing is angled downwards, which makes the forehead appear larger than the nose and the base of the face, even though they are in fact the same length. So what I like to do when drawing the thirds in a foreshortened face is to roughly estimate the extent of foreshortening between the forehead and the nose and draw each segment progressively larger or smaller using the same ratio, if that makes any sense. So for example, in this reference, I feel like the nose seems roughly two-thirds shorter than the forehead, and once I've marked the forehead, I simply draw each of the following segment two-thirds smaller than the previous segment. And I've found this to be quite efficient in creating the illusion of foreshortening in my drawings. Moving on to number 3, which is basically that the width of the nose is equal to the gap between the eyes, which is also equal to the width of a single eye. I know this might sound a bit too complicated, but the idea is actually quite simple. Firstly, the gap between the two eyes is equal to the width of a single eye. So, what seems to help me when I'm drawing the outline of a face is to imagine a third eye between both eyes. And I've actually found this to be a pretty reliable way to estimate how far you should space the two eyes apart. And luckily, the space between both eyes is usually also about the same as the width of the nose. And I find it really helpful to use this as a reference to align the wings of the nose with the inner corners of the eye. So the fourth proportion on the list is thirds of the mouth, which is basically that the last segment of the face, starting from the base of the nose all the way down to the base of the chin, can be further divided into equal thirds. The first segment of the mouth consists of the upper lip and the philtrum. The end of the first segment usually represents the base of the upper lip. The second segment includes the lower lip. In most cases, the second segment ends where the chin starts, but very often when you're drawing people with slightly bigger lips or smaller chins, this is where the lower lip sort of ends. And of course, the last segment marks the chin. And on to the fifth and final face proportion that I feel brings the whole portrait together is the triangle connecting the lips, the nose, the eyes, and the eyebrows. This is something I've learned from the Reilly method, and the main idea here is that if you draw a line connecting the center of the lips to the wings of the nose and extend it towards the outer edge of the eyes, all the way to where the eyebrows end, everything would usually line up. Currently, I use this proportion when I feel something is off in the structure of the face. And what this does is it just speeds up the whole process of diagnosing problems in my outlines tremendously. What fascinates me about this proportion is that you can check the alignment of different features of the face for a range of different head angles, and sometimes even when there is considerable foreshortening. I hope you learned at least one new thing by watching this video, which by the way happens to be the first video on this channel that I've decided to make public. I actually made a handful of videos last year, but I ended up deleting those because I felt they looked terrible. And I hope I don't feel the same way about this video in a couple of weeks. I had been wanting to do this YouTube thing for quite some time now, and I've decided to take this leap of faith and just do it already. I plan to publish at least one video every week, and you can support my channel by liking and subscribing to my channel. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.